We greet our friends everywhere with Chapter 13 of This Is My Song, the story of Fanny Crosby. This is another in the series Stories of Great Christians, and comes to you from the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago. Fanny and her husband, Alexander Van Alstyne, accepted the death of their small daughter, Frances, not without sadness, but with an understanding of the gospel and a belief that the Lord's will must be done. In the course of time, both were back into their regular routine. Van leaving early in the morning for his job of teaching at the Institute for the Blind, and Fanny attending to the work of the home and her writing of hymns. The house seemed strangely empty these days, but the work which went on within its walls never slackened, and the results became known throughout the country. Fanny Crosby was gaining in fame and reputation as one of the greatest of living hymn writers. In connection with her work, she met many people, some of the finest men of the nation: Ira D. Sankey, Dwight L. Moody, George Stebbins. All became acquainted with Fanny, and she loved these contacts. She enjoyed her way of life, these meetings with good Christian people, and the contribution she was making in the field of Christian music. Her friendship with W.H. Doane grew. He was a jovial, deeply reverent man, one who did a great deal in spreading the hymns Fanny had written. He came to her home often, and always he had some new subject for a hymn, and occasionally he dined with Fanny and Van.
Mighty fine dinner, Fanny, mighty fine.
Thank you, but Bess gets credit. She's a wonderful cook.
Too good, I'm afraid. I knew I shouldn't have had a second helping of dessert.
Too rich, W.H.?
Well worth the trouble, though, Van. Well worth the trouble.
Well, the only thing wrong with Bess's cooking is that we eat too much of it, too. Well, let's go into the parlor.
This is more like it. A soft, comfortable chair. You better start talking, both of you, or else I shall soon fall fast asleep.
Oh, you did eat too much.
I admit it, too. I don't regret it, though. Start talking now.
What about?
Anything, Fanny, anything.
The weather is always a good subject.
And most boring. That would put me to sleep, my dear.
You're hard to please.
Only after such a fine dinner, my friend.
Maybe you'd like to hear Van play?
Oh, no.
Why not?
Well, not that I don't appreciate good music, you understand. It's not that, but after a heavy meal, music seems to soothe the savage beast. I should fall to sleep immediately.
Well, then I shan't play.
Thank you, my good man, thank you.
I have a suggestion. Why don't you do the talking? That way you'd be sure to stay awake.
My dear woman, one of the easiest ways to put me to sleep is to start me talking.
It's hopeless.
Well, perhaps we'd all better take a nap. We might talk about our dreams after we wake up.
Oh, no, you don't. You came to dinner tonight, and we're not going to sleep, any one of us.
That sounds positive.
Believe me, it is.
Well, then it's up to you, Fanny. You've elected yourself to the task of keeping W.H. awake.
It's really much more difficult than it sounds.
I don't think so.
And why not?
I seem to be doing a fairly good job of keeping you awake so far. I hardly think you're talking in your sleep, W.H.
You're right, my dear. I'm not.
Good. I have something to ask you.
Here it comes at last. What is it?
The hymn you want me to write about those people who are in need of the gospel, yet who haven't accepted the Lord.
What about it?
The idea is excellent, but I can write it on only one condition.
And what's that?
I need to know more about such people. Since it's your idea, it's up to you to help me.
Well, I will if I can. What do you want me to do?
Take me to a mission. There are many of them here in New York. I want to go to one. I want to get the feel of it. I want to meet the people who frequent such places.
Oh, but that's impossible.
He's right, Fanny. Such a place isn't for you.
Such a place is for me, Van, and for all of us who want to help people who need the gospel. What do you say, W.H.? Will you take me?
It's out of the question, Fanny. It'd be too dangerous.
I don't see why.
Well, because...
Because I'm blind. Is that it?
Well, surely you must realize, my dear, that... Well, it'd be highly irregular.
Irregular or not, I want to go. If I'm to write a hymn about such people, I must know how they live. If you won't take me, Van will.
Van?
I know we're blind, W.H., but we'll manage somehow. I've made up my mind. You'll find it difficult to change it.
I'm beginning to see that.
Fanny, do you know what this means?
Could be very humiliating.
Perhaps. But shall we wait until we get there to find out, gentlemen?
The following week, W.H. Doane took Van and Fanny to a mission in the slum district. It was against his wishes, but he had little to say about it. Fanny wanted to write a hymn about people who needed the Lord, and she was going to be with those very people for at least one night in her life. It was evening when they arrived at the mission, a small place, very much crowded. Those in charge were honored to have Fanny Crosby visit, and somewhat surprised and apprehensive.
Please, if you'll come this way, I'll find some chairs for you.
Thank you.
I'd rather not sit, W.H. I came here to talk with these people. I want to mix with them.
But Fanny... It won't be very easy.
Nevertheless, I'd like to do it. Ready, Van?
I'm with you every step of the way.
For 2 hours, Van and Fanny talked with people who came from all walks of life. The men at the mission were respectful toward the blind songwriter. Many listened with interest as she told the story of her faith. It was an evening which Fanny never forgot.
Very interesting, lady, but I came here to eat.
Pay no attention to him, Fanny.
I said I came here because I wanted something to eat, lady, not to listen to you and your life story.
Whoever you are, you're a very bitter man.
Bitter? Supposing I am.
Then I'm sorry for you.
What? You're sorry for me? That's a good one. You're the one to be pitied, lady. You're blind.
I can't see, if that's what you mean.
You catch on fast.
But I can see. My husband and I can both see. We see with our hearts, not our eyes.
I don't get it.
Although I'm blind, I'm happier than you are.
You don't know nothing about me.
My husband and I both know you. You're a man who has had great problems presented to you.
Perhaps you couldn't see why hard things had to happen to you. Maybe you began to pity yourself, pamper yourself. And as a result, well, here you are, begging for food, even laughing at people who can't see like you can.
Well, I don't want to talk about all this. I came here to eat.
I'm only speaking the truth.
Van, just a minute. I don't know your name, sir, but if you'll only listen, maybe I can help you.
I don't need any help. Least of all from a woman.
But you loved your wife, didn't you?
My wife? How did you know about her?
Perhaps she died. You became bitter.
How'd you know that?
I don't know how I knew. Perhaps it was a guess.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail right on the head.
Don't you believe in God?
He wouldn't have let my wife die. Not when I needed her so bad.
I believe in God. And yet, he let my child die.
Why?
We can't answer that. All we can do is accept it as his will. It's a part of our living, a part of his testing.
I don't know, lady. I never thought like this before. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings.
It's all right. If you're willing, I'd like to talk more with you and help you if I can.
Yeah. I'll listen.
W.H., you go and get us some coffee and donuts, will you?
Of course, Fanny. Of course.
Good. And you might bring some for yourself. You didn't eat at our house this evening, you know.
Joe listened while Van and Fanny told him the story of salvation in Christ and their willingness to work for him. Joe wasn't completely changed that night, but he became a regular figure at the mission and ultimately a full-time worker there. Fanny's trip to the mission was successful because she gained the experience she wanted to write a gospel hymn of evangelism called Rescue the Perishing.
You know something? You're a fabulous woman.
Am I?
Afraid of nothing, willing to try anything, and succeeding in everything.
You forgot something, Van.
What?
Love is what helps me. God's love for me and your love.
Fanny's husband was always ready with a word of cheer when most needed, and a word of faith when both needed it. Fanny knew he was fearful of her visit to the mission that night, but he went with her and helped in all that she did. So it was gratifying to him as well as Fanny when the hymn she wrote that night became so well loved.
Rescue the perishing, care for the dying. Jesus is merciful. Jesus will save. Though they are slighting him, still he is waiting, waiting the penitent child to receive. Plead with them earnestly. Plead with them gently. He will forgive if they only believe.
And so we conclude Chapter 13 of This Is My Song, the story of Fanny Crosby. This is another in the series Stories of Great Christians, and comes to you from the radio studios of the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago. The life stories of great men and women of God of other generations are a constant encouragement for people to live for Christ today. That's why Moody Bible Institute and this station bring you Stories of Great Christians. If you appreciate these programs, we invite you to write. Let us know. And if you'd like to suggest a certain individual whose life you'd like to hear portrayed, please tell us. Address your letter to Moody Bible Institute, Chicago 10, Illinois. That's Moody Bible Institute, Chicago 10.